Sukkah, Perik Vav Aloha Aleph. We're beginning Perik Vav, and the Rambam says, "Noshim avodim ktanim p'turim min Sukkah." Women, slaves, and also minors are not obligated with the mitzvah of Sukkah. We go to the Peirush. Noshim ktanim reported. The Maggid Mishnah cites the Mishnah in Sukkah 28a. Rabbeinu Menoach explains that any positive commandment which is time delineated, meaning that it doesn't work all the time, but it's only certain times of the year, women are potter, as we find in Kedushin 34a, and the obligation of a mitzvah of an Eved Kanani, meaning a slave, a Jewish slave, has to go through a conversion process, and he has an obligation to do mitzvahs like a woman. And that all the mitzvahs that a woman has obligated with them, in them, so is the Jewish slave obligated in them. And we learn it from in Chagiga 4a from a posik that says, Lo Mi'isha. And Ktanim are potter because they're potter from all the mitzvahs because they're not considered mature of thought. Tumtum, somebody whose private parts are covered, we're not sure if he's male or female, and or androgynous, which is an androgen, which also has both. He has both my private parts of a male and a female. Hayavim misofik. They're liable from sofik, meaning we're not sure if they're male or a female. Now, the Maggid Mishnah explains that we learn their law from the din of shofar. Shofar too is a positive commandment that's time delineated, and women and slaves and minors are not obligated, and tumtum and androgynous are obligated. Somebody who's half a slave and half freed, he's liable. If he had two owners, one freed them, so he's half free. The half free is obligated in Sukkah. This would apply to any mitzvah that's time delineated, that women are potter, and if we're in doubt, they're liable because we're stringent, and if somebody's half freed and half slave, he is liable. Now, a cotton, a minor, that doesn't need his mother any longer, he's either 5 or 6 years old, he's obligated to Sukkah because it's a law of the Chachamim. To teach him how to do mitzvahs. Even though I'm in a Torah cotton until 13 years in one day, he's a minor. And he has to even bring 2 pubic hairs. Otherwise, he's not punishable for mitzvahs. But you have to educate him from the time that it's correct to do so. And by Sukkah, you have to do it from the time when he doesn't need his mother any longer, and therefore his mother is not sitting in the Sukkah, from 5 or 6. The Maggid Mishnah cites the Mishnah in Sukkah 28a. A cotton that doesn't need his mother is liable, has to fulfill the obligation of Sukkah. The Gemara says, it's a rabbinical, I'm going to be Rabbi Yanai. When we're talking about he doesn't need his mother, means that he can taking care of his personal body needs himself, and he doesn't need his mother. Like Shlokish says, when he gets up from the sleep and he doesn't yell out first thing ima or mami, the Rambam writes that's around the 5 or 6, and there's a reliance on this from the Erevin. We find in 82a that regarding making an Erev Tchumen, so you should be able to carry more than 2,000 cubits from your home, the cotton who needs his mother can go up beyond the Tchum according to his mother's Erev. His mother decides to go here a shiur, the south of the city, and she put down her food there, so she can go 2,000 cubits further, and he can go with her. And there, we're talking about around the age of 5. He completed 5 years, or he's 6, he completed 6 years. Whenever we speak about that, even by mitzvahs, 13 years, it means he completed 13 years. As the Mishnah points out, that there, it's also explained regarding a sukkah is 4 or 5. Why the Rambam does it takes the shiur of Tchumim, which is where he goes with his mother, which is 5 or 6, rather than Sukkah, which is 4 or 5, and he has difficulty explaining it from the Yerushalmi, because we learned in Rabbi learned in the Yerushalmi that cotton that does not need his mother needs a Sukkah, and he can go out with the Eruv of his mother. And so it would seem that the two laws are intertwined, that of Sukkah and that of Eruv. And furthermore, there's a proof from what the Bavli, himself, the Sukkah doesn't say 5 or 6, means that it's not the Halacha, it is just mentioned that way. As the Mishnah states that there is also clarifying, it's 4 or 5. We said that. The Mishnah adds in Eruvin, they differentiate between a minor that goes with his mother's eruv, or if his father is found in the city or not. Rambam in Hilchos Eruvin writes that when he's 6, he goes out with his mother's eruv, only when the father is not in the city. And here, regarding the Sukkah, he wrote 5 or 6. His intent is if his father is in the city. His 5 is called a cotton because he doesn't need his mother and he's liable with Sukkah. And if he's not in the city, his 6-year-old is called a cotton because he's liable in Sukkah. And that's why we learn it from the Inyan Eruv, the concept of relying on whether the father's around or not. Does that make a difference in the obligation? The Mishnah cites from Rashi, it says, like 5 years old, like 6 years old, that there's a difference between children. Some children are mature, have more sense at a younger age. So and an infant who is not sharp would be when he's 6. He brings also differentiation whether the father's in the city or not. And the Rambam doesn't mention anything in this regard. He adds that that's what he intended here when he said 5 or 6, and therefore in Hilchos Eruv, and he said it without any answer, like the case of Mishnah, because it's difficult to say that if somebody's writing down the halachas, he's not going to write it at least in one place specifically. The Torah says, a cotton that doesn't need his mother, that means he's 6 or 7, he's liable with Sukkah l'chanchor, because of educating him. The Bach explains that he's of the opinion like the Rambam, because 6 and 5 means complete years. When 5 years is when the 6th year begins, and 7 is when the 6th year ends, and the 7th year begins. 5 is talking about his father's in the city. The cotton comes with him, therefore he's not called needing his mother. When Sheish is talking about his father's not in the city, and he learns the Torah that both children are normal children, they're not overly intelligent. We find the Torah by Eruv, but the Taz of the opinion that it depends according to the child's ability to grasp why he has to do a mitzvah. The Gemara explains that the Rambam says here either 5 or like 6 is a mistake. It should say when he's 6, like Rasi, because if he's saying the halachos like Rabbi Yanai or Rish Lakish, he should have said 4 or 5, as we mentioned earlier, and that he should have mentioned also that it depends whether his father's in the city or not. In Hilchos Eruvin, we find cotton of 6 is liable, and so the Rif says Goinim, and Eruvin and Sukkah has the same laws applied to it. The Mishnah in Sukkah, it says that he doesn't need his mother. The Gemara cites the Yerushalmi of Rabbi Yishia, doesn't need his mother, needs a Sukkah, and he goes out with the Eruv of his mother. And just like the Eruv and the Rambam says that that's from 6 years old, so too by Sukkah you have to say that he doesn't need his mother. He's talking about 6, and not like our text, which has 5 or 6. Those who have the text by 5 or 6, you have to explain, as we explained before, that it depends on the intellectual capacity of the child. Shulchan Aruch paskins that women and slaves and minors are not obligated in a sukkah. Now, there's a question whether women make a bracha on the mitzvah seisha zman groma, and sukkah is a positive commandment which is time delineated. According to Bnei Ashkenaz, women do make a bracha, even though it's a time-related mitzvah. According to Bnei Yisrael, the women of the Middle East, they do not make a bracha. The Mishnah Berurah says that they make a bracha leisha b'sukkah, just like by tzitzis. According to the Ashkenaz, that she says a bracha on the mitzvah seisha zman groma. Shalom continues. Two are obligated out of doubt because we're not sure whether they're male or female. Mishnah Berurah says you shouldn't make a bracha because the brachas are only the Rabbanon, and so the Rabbanon is a kula. If you want to make a bracha, according to the Ashkenaz, they can do so because they're no worse than a woman. They can do so. Shulchan adds that if he's half freed and half slave, reliable. And he writes a cotton doesn't need his mother. That's from 5 or 6. He used to sit in a sukkah with Rabbanon for educational purposes. The Mishnah Berurah cites the Taz and the Magen Avraham, the cotton who is very sharp, and then it's from 5. If he's not sharp, then from 6. And according to this, there's no difference whether his father is in the city or not. Some later commentaries, though, say that from 5, and his father's not in the city, that he doesn't need his mother. His father has to teach him about sukkah, even if he's not sharp. And if the whole year the father's not in the city, even if he comes for sukkahs, so here he's more customary to go with his mother, but it still starts at the age of 6, even though his father's there. Shaitzian cites from the Bir Agro that Ben Chomesh is a mistake, and should really say both in the Shulchan Aruch and the Rambam. Should say from 6. The Mishnah Berurah adds that if he doesn't have a father, those are saying that Bezdin have to teach him, and his mother has to teach him. But any stranger would be forbidden to give him to eat, to put something to eat outside of the sukkah, or to command him to eat outside the sukkah. He's obligated to eat in the sukkah b'divrei seifrim, the Rabbanan.